Okay, so tonight, what we need to start looking at tonight is more percent problems and how we can use proportions to go hand in hand with our percents. Okay, that's the goal for today. And for the sake of coming up with some math problems here, we're just going to choose a couple. Number 41 here we're going to do. It says of the 32 teams in the National Football League, 4 teams are in the AFC East Division. What percent of the teams are in the AFC East Division? And so what I've done here is I've just transferred all of our information over. 32 teams in the NFL. There's 4 teams in the AFC East. So the question is, what percent of the teams are in the AFC East? All right, and the goal here today is to use proportions to help us out. In class, if you'll remember, we came up with a basic proportion. Our first ratio is going to be our percent side, all right, because percents are always out of 100. So anytime we're dealing with a percent, we have the number 100 available to us. And then we gave you some context clues to help you fill in the second ratio. The little word is and the little word of are some context clues you can use. They may be available, they may not be available. It just depends on the type of problem we're dealing with. Okay, but as we can see in this problem, all right, percent of teams in the AFC, the percent is our missing piece. So the value that's over 100, that's the one we're going to have to come up with. All right, so we can represent that with our variable. If we look back, what percent of the teams? We got the little word of for the teams. Well, how many teams are there? Of the 32. Okay, so 32 is being tagged with the little word of. So if we use our formula, that tells us we should be placing the 32 in the denominator. And then that only leaves one place for the 4 left to go in the numerator. Okay, so now it's just a simple matter of solving our proportion. We want to cross multiply 100 times 4. Divide by the third term, which in this case is 32. So we have 400 divided by 32. Again, if you have a calculator, you're going to be able to come up with this much quicker than I am. 64 8 256. Okay, so I'm going to round off. So I'm going to say that we are going to be approximately, okay, remember anytime we round we can use our squiggle equals here. So we're going 12.8%. 12.8% there. Okay, so again, if you have a calculator, this long division step will be unnecessary. You can just do 400 divided by 32 and come up with your answer. All right, second problem we can look at down here. A camel that weighs 1,500 pounds can drink up to about 20% of its weight in water at one time. About how many pounds of water can a camel that weighs 1,500 pounds drink in one drink? All right, so again, I've just transferred over 1,500 pound camel can drink 20% of its weight in water. How many pounds of water can it drink? So again, the whole goal here for today is percents and proportions. All right, so we know we're going to have to set up another proportion. We got 20%, which is a gimme because we know our percents always go with 100. So that's an easy placement. What we have to determine now is the 1,500. Is that going to be our numerator or our denominator on the for the second ratio? All right, 1,500 pounds. Okay, we're wanting to know how much water. Again, we maybe aren't necessarily seeing the context clues. We can drink 20% of weight in water. So the 20% does represent water here. And since they're asking us to find water, okay, we want to be consistent. So we could say, hey, both of our top values here stand for the water. So we know we've got a good setup here. We know we've got a good setup here. So now it's just a matter of solving our proportion again. Cross multiply and divide by 100. 100. Okay, nice little trick we can use here since we're multiplying with numbers that end in zeros and we're dividing by numbers that end in zeros. Each zero can cancel out 1 0 on top, so that works out quite nicely. So really all we have to calculate here is 150 times 2, which is 300 pounds. That's a lot of water, 300 pounds of water in one drink. Okay, so that's the whole goal, is to use proportions. All the story problems that you have tonight, regardless of the form, can be solved using a proportion, and that's what we would like you to try and do this evening. As always, bring any questions to class tomorrow. Have a good night.